so much for being here this morning. Thank you. I think we're going to get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Maureen Reedy, the president of the Paley Center for Media, and I am delighted to welcome you all to this morning's Paley Dialogue, a conversation with Jeff Zucker, president of CNN Worldwide, and moderated by Ben Smith, editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed. You all have in your handouts their bios describing their illustrious careers, and so rather than enumerate their impressive string of successes, I just want to say how excited I am to have both leaders here together at this exact moment in time. For all of us at the Paley Center, it's a timely chance to do what we do best. Engage all of you gathered here today to help better understand the media industry's present, strategize for the future, all within the context of that which has come before in the past. In specifically the news world, this moment in time is fortuitously during the brief pause for Jeff and Ben between the US presidential debates and the beginning of their coverage of the 2016 primaries. And for Jeff Zucker, today's program coincides with the announcement 3 years ago this week of his joining CNN Worldwide as its president. Happy anniversary, Jeff. 3 years affords us just enough time to take stock of the change he has effected and hear what he believes he still needs to do for CNN's continued growth. His challenge remains to steer a now 35-year-old global news brand through not only the rough waters of TV news channel competition, but amidst complete technological disruption of how news is gathered, consumed, and perhaps even defined. The timing of today's program marks another anniversary as well. 4 years ago, in December of 2011, Ben Smith was hired by BuzzFeed not for a turnaround, but to build a brand new breed of social news organization. So happy anniversary, Ben. Questions like, will CNN's relevance for the next generation and its future fortunes come from its global array of cable TV channels or the mobile web? Where will BuzzFeed's relevance come from? Do the two news divisions even aspire to be like each other? The answers to these questions and more await all of us this morning. Before we get underway, I'd like to just recognize a few very special guests. Paley trustees that are with us this morning: Kay Koplovitz, Scott Kernett, Catherine Oliver, Jeff Stans, Stan Schuman, and our Vice Chairman, Mel Karmazan. Thank you for all of your support. And we extend our sincerest thanks to our long-term and valued partner, McKinsey, who serves as our official knowledge partner. I'd also like to welcome all of the members of the Paley Media Council and your inviting guests. For those of you who aren't yet members but are interested in attending more exclusive events like these, we invite you to see Betty Cohen, who's here with us, after today's breakfast. And you might want to mark your calendars for some other exciting upcoming programs. This coming Wednesday on December 9th, many of you in this room will want to attend this event. It's the next big thing in journalism, Follow the Data, where we'll be joined for a high-level breakfast with top journalism, technology, and journalism school leaders as we examine the exciting innovations in data journalism. Staying on the subject of the next new thing, on January 12th, backed by popular demand, is a new series we created last year, which is the Best of CES here at the Paley Center, where we will convene an evening and debrief on all the exciting news coming out of the Consumer Electronics Show. Not everything in Vegas stays in Vegas. Right here, you'll get the scoop on top trends and the coolest new products that were displayed at CES. We'll have curated demos, fresh perspectives from an array of companies and experts, including 3 media tech visionaries. We'll be joined by Media Redef's CEO and Chief Curator Jason Hirschhorn, and 2 Paley Center trustees, John Miller, partner at Advanced Capital, and Joe Marchese, president of Advanced Advertising Products for the Fox Networks Group. Now, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce Jeff Zucker, president of CNN Worldwide, and today's moderator, Ben Smith, editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. As Mel kindly noted, neither of us look like we slept very much. And we're maybe both a little groggy from a very long night.
I actually think he wasn't even that nice about how he looked.
He was actually.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, he was just talking about you. But I was trying to be generous. But it's a good morning to talk about news, talk about CNN. Both of our teams, we're cranking all night on a really horrific, crazy story that we still don't know a lot about. And I guess, and Jeff was just showing me the kind of stunning rating CNN gets in these moments when it's just obviously this sort of central American habit, including in my newsroom, turn on CNN. I guess that the question I'm sort of interested in asking you is how broadcast news has changed in a moment when we're sort of all broadcast, and when every reader is exposed to what used to be an internal newsroom conversation, and frankly, like a totally disorganized, chaotic internal conversation where the wrong name is being floated, reporters are being sent to the wrong place, crazy theories are bandied about, and then ideally, nobody sees any of that, and it's presented in the newspaper or on TV once we've nailed it down. Now that's all out there.
Right.
And I think we see our role as helping people navigate that chaos with reporting, and I wonder how you deal with that.
Yeah, so I think that is actually the, by the way, thank you for having us, and thanks for coming this morning. I think that is actually the fundamental thing that is going on in all of what is classified as news right now. And I actually think that we at CNN are incredibly aware of that and think that we have a distinct role to play in that, which is that, you know, everybody's a reporter now because they can tweet, everybody's a reporter now because they have a blog, whatever it is, right? And social media has changed everything. We're very conscious of that, and we're very conscious at CNN that, you know, there are many times, including yesterday and last night, where you're going to find out about what's going on from Twitter or Facebook or whatever social media platform that you use or frequent. And we understand that, and we're okay with that. But we know then you're going to come to CNN to see if it's true. And that's really the role that we think we play now. And I'll tell you, for instance, we are very, we don't care if we're first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh reporting something. The most important thing is that we be right. And for instance, last night on the first shooter who was identified, we had it, you know, we had it like everybody else had it, right? I don't know, 8 o'clock, whatever time it was. We did not report it till 11:45 p.m., okay? We had it from 5 sources, but we wanted to flush it out entirely and make sure we had everything about it. And we did not go with it till 11:45. I just showed you our audience levels on television, okay, which dominated everybody else who was on television. I can go through our digital numbers, which are all-time numbers for digital for CNN. So it's not like people weren't still coming to us or staying with us to find out what was going on. They came to us because they knew when we reported it, it would be right.
Do you feel
and that's really where we feel that fundamental obligation. And I will tell you, 3 years ago, it was that I came 3 years ago, 2 or 3 months after I got there, and you know, the Boston bombings happened, and we did a phenomenal job of reporting in Boston, but we made a mistake, and we reported that somebody had been arrested. It was on Wednesday of that week, and we were wrong for about an hour. Now, there were a lot of other people who got it wrong, including the Boston Globe and the local TV station in Boston, and I think the Associated Press had it wrong, but everybody focused on CNN had it wrong, okay? Because that's all that mattered. And it was after that, and by the way, it was an honest mistake made by a veteran reporter. We corrected it within the hour. But it was after that that I made clear to everybody, I didn't care if we were first, ever. I wanted to be right. And that's what CNN is about, and that's why you see what happened yesterday, and that's I think, our role in this new crazy world where everybody's a reporter and everything's out there. You learn it wherever you want. You're going to come to CNN to see if it's true.
Yeah, and I think that kind of credibility can be lost and won so fast, and we
exactly.
Are in the trying to earn it every day. And one thing that we sort of wrestle with is there's so much false information out there. Part of the ecosystem everyone is swimming in are lies and rumors. And I think we see our view, certainly partly because we live fully in that ecosystem, to engage them, to say, hey, this is wrong. And you know, in the Paris attacks, you know, we had millions of people read something of ours in several languages that was a list of false social media rumors to not believe. How do you on TV and on digital deal with that? Do you deal with it differently?
Yeah.
Or do you just say, hey, like we're not going to this is traditional?
Yeah. So that's a really good point. I think you play a slightly different role than I think we see our role with regard to that. You know, we don't really think that we need to knock down everything that's bad that's out there. We think it matters what we report, not what we don't report, or not what we what we do or don't knock down. Now, if there are occasions where something has become so part of the, the ether, and that everybody is talking about it, and it's just wrong, then I think we have some obligation to do that. But that's not really how we go into things looking to do it or approach it. I think we're more about reporting what we do know is right.
Yep. So just to move on to to CNN, among your many media legacies is Donald Trump, who you helped create at NBC.
Oh, we made that switch right away. Okay, there we go. Okay, and game on.
This is
okay.
This is like CNN programming.
Oh.
We're always cutting to Trump.
Right, but you see, this is the point: is you went there even though like everybody wants to know why do you only talk about Trump? Why do you only cover Trump? But you went there, so okay.
And I read recently that
Do you want me to ask me the question?
I'm just going to step aside. This is going to be a monologue about Donald Trump. He's not going on the road with it. You've had reportedly have complaints from your staff about how much he's on the air, and he said yesterday that he takes personal credit for 99.9% of your ratings. And I guess, really honestly, I wonder, given the bigoted, lying campaign he's been running, whether you have any regrets about the role you've played in his career.
So why don't we put a little context around that question, which is to explain the role that I've played in his career, right? So I think what you're referring to is that when I was at NBC Entertainment, I am the one who put The Apprentice on the air. It went on the air, I think, in January of 2004. We greenlit it in 2003. And the reason that I greenlit it was I was from New York. I was working in LA running NBC Entertainment at the time. And I understood, basically The Apprentice was Survivor in a different jungle, right, in the boardroom. And that's the way it was pitched, and Survivor had been this huge phenomenon for several years at the time. And everybody was looking for their Survivor, right? And so this was pitched that way. I understood immediately what Donald Trump was and what it meant to have him at the center of that show. I think in a way that maybe the other folks who were running the other entertainment divisions in Los Angeles at the time didn't fully appreciate because they weren't from New York, right? Okay, most of the people in here from New York. And I had lived every day with the New York Post and the New York culture and understood the magnet for attention that he was. And so that's why we wanted Survivor, and you had Donald Trump. Sounds like a pretty good combination. So that's why we greenlit it. It turned out to be a phenomenon. It did great, and it's still running on NBC. I think they're still running. Well, actually not now, but until he decided to run for president, it was still running. So that's the context of your question, which is that's the legacy that I play, or the legacy part that I play in furthering Donald Trump's career. Now, I would say that first of all, there's no question that that The Apprentice made Trump even a bigger celebrity than he already was, but he was already a pretty big celebrity. So I think that
you don't get all the credit.
So don't get all the credit, right? Or any of that. But so that's the context. I have no regrets about The Apprentice or any of that. It was absolutely the right decision, and it turned out to be a phenomenal hit for NBC for a long, long time. So that was a good move. And with regard to, I think, the question, so I have no regrets about the part that I played in his career. I think you're also asking me if I have any regrets about the coverage. Was that the, or we'll just end it there.
No. Yeah. I guess I wonder. Like, do you feel like you're giving this guy who's running this really demagogic campaign, but you're going live to all his rallies. You're giving him a huge platform.
Right. Well, we're not going live to all his rallies, but we have done them.
There's a report that you hired a guy named Jeffrey Lord at his personal urging.
No, well, that's not true at all. But what I would say, there have been people who have asked about the amount of coverage that that Trump gets, and I don't think it's our role to editorialize the way you are in asking me the questions.
Do you think it's editorializing to say that he's a demagogue or a bigot?
I think that that is your opinion. I'm not taking a point of view. I don't think it's our role to take a point of view. I think it's our role to report what he says, what he does, to fact check what he says, what he does. And really, it's not our role to build up a campaign or take down a campaign. It's our role to be skeptical of what every candidate puts out there and says, and I think that's the role. It's not our role to editorialize the way I think that some of those comments are.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all make calls about when it's objective fact
I'm
to
not-
say
I'm
he's
not-
lying about stuff when it's editorializing. Do you think you're going to let him extract $5 million for you for the next debate?
No, we do not pay candidates to appear at debates.
I emailed a bunch of media reporters, including like some of the best who are on your staff, to get questions about CNN. And I guess one small one that came up was I have heard that the abuse of the breaking news banner is something that you're cracking down on. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that. By the way, I do not think that this is a. I do not think that this is a problem that is unique to CNN,
no.
right?
I mean, the word Twitter, I feel like it's Twitter's fault. It's bleeding in.
Yeah, I don't know whose fault it is, but I mean, I think every news division is guilty of this. I really do, and I think at some point it just loses credibility for when it actually is breaking news. Yeah. And I would much rather spend time breaking actual news than pretending that something is breaking news. Yeah. So we have tried to crack down on the overuse of things that are labeled breaking news. I'm sure we still do it more than we should, but I know we do it less than others who continue to just not think it's a problem.
Yeah. On a sort of bigger picture question, I wonder, I mean, there's sort of a classic innovator's dilemma thing. You're running a huge, successful television operation. How do you how does it even make sense for you to pay attention to digital? How do you get yourself to pay attention to digital when it's the tiny fraction of revenue, and really of audience and of power that it is right now?
I just don't think that's true at CNN in this respect, and that's why we pay a tremendous amount of attention to digital, and it has become a really important part of what we've done. We've reallocated a tremendous amount of resources into it. We're making a significant amount of money in digital. I'd argue among all legacy, media companies, other than those, in the Valley and whose full-time thing this is. We're probably doing as well as anybody in terms of the monetization of it. But I think that CNN, we think we are a multi-platform provider of news and information, and a global multi-platform provider. And so that's television and that's digital. It's desktop, it's mobile, increasingly obviously mobile. And so it is an important part of what we do. And frankly, our people come to our digital product. It almost doesn't matter anymore where those three little red letters are, right? If they're on a television screen, or if they're on a phone, or if they're on your computer. And so we are paying a lot of attention to it, and we are investing heavily in digital. And that's why I think CNN, everybody thinks of CNN as this US domestic television network. And I get it, because that's what we all watch, right? And that's what, reporters and bloggers write about. But that is so missing what CNN is. CNN is a global network. CNN International, reaches, more people saw our coverage last night outside the United States than saw every network who was covering the combined inside the United States on CNN. And digitally, it's the same thing. Yesterday was one of the most traffic days in the history of CNN digital. And it started at 2 in the afternoon,
Those
right?
are numbers you're looking at too, not just the ratings.
I brought them with me. I brought them with me because I knew you would ask. We had 28 million video views yesterday, which was the most of the year and the third biggest of all time. We had 20 million uniques, which was the second biggest number of the year behind Paris. And we had 162 million page views, top 10 all time, and mobile was 2/3 of that.
Wow, that's huge.
Okay, so those are huge numbers. And
do you see, is there a sort of over-the-top, kind of unbundled future for CNN?
well, look, nobody knows what the future exactly is going to look like. right now the ecosystem with which CNN exists works incredibly well. But we do think that because of our brand equity, those 3 little red letters, the fact that people will come to CNN to see if it's true, that we can exist in whatever world it becomes. And so whatever the world is, I think this is why the credibility and brand equity is the most important thing. Because in that world, by the way, in this world where everybody, is free with their facts, and everybody has a partisan point of view, and everybody wants to play journalist, there does have to be a place that you can count on and rely upon. And I think whether it's an over-the-top world or a bundled world or whatever that world is, whether it's a digital world or a television world, CNN, we can exist in that world.
Do you see your role as pulling the world one way or the other? In that, on one hand, the cable business is such a great business, and there's obviously an impulse just to keep that revenue flowing for as long as you can. On the other hand, maybe that's Planet Krypton and you want to get off it. And do you have a feeling that your role is to pull not just CNN but the kind of broader ecosystem one way or the other?
I don't think
John Skipper probably has more vote in that than anybody else.
Yeah, certainly. Listen, CNN is part of the Turner.
Right.
Of Turner, which is part of Time Warner.
HBO has played a big role in that.
Right. So, I don't think it's necessarily CNN's role in this. Turner will have a say in that.
Yeah.
Time Warner will have a say in that. That's not really CNN's role.
I saw it, I think in that Gabe Sherman piece, reported that you would consider a run for office. Is that still true?
I would still think about that. Yeah.
Is there a job you have in mind?
No.
Republican nomination for mayor of New York seems to be
See, you have a lot of opinions.
I'm just trying to generate a little news here, Jeff.
I would consider anything.
But do you have a sense of how long you're planning to stay at CNN?
No, are you?
No,
No, I don't. I love what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it. I have no plans to leave. I've never had a timetable on any of this, on anything I've ever done. So, I don't know how long. I will be there for the foreseeable future, but, my eyesight's not that good, so I can't see that far.
To ask about the competition, you talk about the sort of the partisanship in the media, and obviously in cable, at least I think last cycle was sort of defined, and for a while it's been defined. You got MSNBC, you got Fox, you got CNN. MSNBC, I think, at least I don't feel like I totally clearly see what they're going to be this cycle, and I wonder if you have, I don't know, if you either feel like you do see what it is, or if you have any advice for them.
Well, they don't need my advice. They got a lot of good people there. Look, I spent many years at I spent 25 years at NBC and many years overseeing MSNBC. So I don't want to pretend to give them advice. I will say that clearly they're going through a rebuilding phase, and I think it's been interesting to me that they've decided that they want to move more into breaking news and covering breaking news, and and compete more with CNN. I think if the last month between Paris and Colorado Springs and last night in San Bernardino has proven anything, is that's what CNN is really built for, and that's a very hard space to compete with us in. And so I guess I've been a little surprised that that's the lane that they've chosen. But like I said, they're very smart people and they'll figure it out.
Can you talk a little about your own media diet? When I was talking, one of the main question when I've talked to people at CNN this week about what to ask you is, how the hell does he watch so much CNN with all the other things he does?
Yeah.
But other than CNN, are you lurking on Twitter? Are you?
No.
Where else are you getting?
Yeah. So I do not tweet, because if I tweeted, I would get fired immediately. So that would be a very bad thing. So in terms of my media diet, I watch a lot of CNN, because I think that you know, I want to know what we're doing and making sure that we're not calling things breaking news when we shouldn't be. And you know, I think if people are working hard for us, I think that I owe it to them to give them my time. Beyond that, in terms of television, I also watch our competition. So I watch MSNBC, I watch Fox, because I want to know what they're doing. And I think that we can learn from everybody. And I watch both of them, and I know what they're doing. And beyond that, I watch sports. I just watch a lot of sports. And thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then, you know, and I watch a couple shows on demand. And then in terms of news and how I consume, you know, I don't really read hard copies of newspapers or anything anymore. But I have a number of places where I consume information, including yours.
That's good to hear. Do you and what about Twitter? Are you looking at Twitter and then like holding back from tweeting, or do you sort of like
I monitor Twitter. I monitor, you know, what people are tweeting and what's out there. But no, I can't even have the inclination to tweet because I would just get in trouble.
Yeah, no, I experience that every day, but I guess tolerant bosses. We're going to take some questions just in a couple of minutes, in 5 minutes. To me, like one of the really interesting new video news products has been Snapchat this cycle, which Peter Hamby left you guys to do, and I thought their San Bernardino piece was really raw and interesting. And I wonder what you, and I know you guys are in Discover as their way. It's huge audience, really interesting platform. I guess I wonder what you think of Discover, what you think of what Snapchat's doing broadly in news.
Yeah, look, we program for the Discover platform, which is Snapchat's news platform, I guess. And look, I think it's interesting. I think it reaches a certain segment of the audience that we wouldn't necessarily otherwise reach, and that's why we want to be part of it. And that's really how we look at, you know, Facebook and Snapchat and YouTube, is that they are platforms that we want to be part of because that's where the audience is. And we don't want to pretend that they're only going to be, you know, you only have to come to CNN TV or CNN.com or whatever. So we want to be part of all of those platforms. I think Snapchat is doing really interesting work. And I think what's most appealing about Snapchat is that they have a distinct and discrete audience that goes there. And if those people can find CNN there, then that's great for us. So I'm a big fan of what they're doing, and I think that it's a great platform, and it's a great platform for us. And that's the point. We just want to be where you are, right? Wherever you are, that's where we want to be. And we want, and I think that's why the brand equity matters. We know that there are young people who have never watched CNN on television and think it's only a digital play. That's okay. That's okay.
And before I go to the audience, one last actual television question, which is just that it seems that you guys are clearly in second place now, which is, you know,
in cable news in television in the United States.
In cable news and television in the United States, which has been in your tenure a big achievement, but still trailing Fox. And I wonder, is being
cable news and television in the United States.
In cable news and television in the United States, in conservative punditry, Fox reigns, you know, as well. Is being number one in those ratings a goal? Do you see a path to that?
Yeah. So okay. So that's a totally fair question. So what's happened over the last 3 years is that to go down your line of questioning, we have moved into a very strong second place in terms of television ratings in the United States in cable news. We were in third 3 years ago. Now we're a very strong second. Is that a goal? Would it be a goal to be number one? Well, look, one, I'm competitive. Two, I think it's always good to have a goal to do better. So sure, yes, of course. But that is not really how we judge ourselves on a daily basis, or that we're going to think we have failed if we didn't get there, right? Because our business is so much broader than the way, some of these blogs grade it on a daily basis, right? Again, because we're global, we're multi-platform, and U.S. television is important. There's no doubt, and it's it's what has originally defined CNN. So we feel great about the progress we've made there. We are, and we know these facts, right? Because they are important. So I don't want to pretend and BS anybody that it's not important. But we are in our best competitive position to Fox News this year since 2008. We are closer to Fox than we have been in the last 7 years. We are more dominant over MSNBC than we have been in 11 years, right? So we are doing much better. Do I think we can get to the to number one? I have to say yes, because if I don't, then you won't believe it, and the team won't believe it, and I won't believe it. So I believe we can get there. I believe we will get there. I don't know when.
Questions? Anybody? Yes.
Quick one. When we hear candidates at debates at other places say, that's an unfair question. Seems strange to me that in journalism there could be an unfair question. What do you think?
That's what I was trying to say. But.
Well, you know what the difference was between the way he asked it and the way you asked it was the tone, right? So, but that's the point, actually. But I know.
To begin with, why does CNN suck?
Right, exactly. No, but you see, but I think that actually that's the exact point. Is to your question, which is that I think you can ask virtually any question, but there is, I think, a tone and a way to ask a question that I think does matter. So, I believe that if you're running for president of the United States, you should have to answer any question, right? But if you're running for president of the United States, you also deserve respect, and you deserve to be treated fairly. And with that comes the proper tone. I'm a big believer. I've been in television for 30 years. I believe that live television news is a lot about tone. And tone is what separates the great ones from the not so great ones. And so I think that candidates should be required to answer just about any question that's out there. Like I said before, it's not our job to build people up or take them down. It's our job to be skeptical. And it's our job to ask questions that are skeptical, but you should do it with the right tone.
Have you ever thought through or had any pressure from the inside or the outside to develop more in the area of investigative journalism, and in that sense to create a premium service on, for example, with your partner at HBO?
Yeah. So listen, we think that investigative journalism is important. Over the last 18 months, CNN is for instance, one of the pieces of journalism that we're most proud of is that CNN is the outlet that broke the entire scandal at the Veterans Administration. Okay? That was all CNN reporting. So that's just one big example. There are many other smaller examples that we do on a continuing regular basis. Investigative journalism takes a long time and costs a lot of money. And those are luxuries that not many news outlets have anymore. So it is one of the reasons that we actually continue to do it. But I think doing it on a daily basis is not feasible or practical. It's not just the money; it's the resources and the ability to do it. So I don't think that a premium product would make sense for that with us. I think continuing to do it the way we have done it is what we will do, and that we're proud of. And there's never been any pressure to do it or not do it. It's what we think is right.
Yeah, I think it's just to add to that. I think in the digital ecosystem actually favors these big investigations at the moment. Again, in the context of a successful media company doing a lot of things.
Sure.
It's expensive. It takes a lot of time. We have a 20-person investigative unit in part because the thing that cuts through this incredibly crowded,
Right.
noisy space every day, only a couple things are going to cut through, and it's got to be the best thing.
Right.
And
I agree with that.
and so we have, for us, it's made sense to invest in.
And you all have done a nice job with that.
Well, thank you.
So 20 years ago, I had conversations with Ted Turner about combining CNN and CBS News.
Right.
Followed through with the management up until about 10 years ago. Since you have a unique perspective of having worked at NBC, which had a cable news network, and now working at CBS, we know that there are a lot of advantages, as far as expanding reach and costs and stuff like that. What would be the disadvantage if CNN were part of Disney or CBS? Why would that be a disadvantage to CNN?
Yeah. So, by the way, you look good. It's an interesting question, Mel. When you had those conversations 20 years ago and even 10 years ago, and ABC, Disney had the same conversations with CNN, the world was a little different in terms I just want to turn it around just a little bit, in that the broadcast networks, and in particular the broadcast network news divisions, were in a much stronger place and had many more resources, had bureaus around the world, had people, had investigative journalists, whatever. That is not the case anymore. And I would argue to you that, for instance, CNN is in a much stronger position than the broadcast network news divisions. And frankly, I believe it is reversed. And the broadcast network news divisions would benefit far more from CNN than vice versa. Now, would there be a problem for CNN to be within, we couldn't be within the NBC because they have 2 cable news networks. Would there be a problem for CNN to be within the Disney empire or the CBS empire as opposed to the Time Warner empire? No, I don't think that would be a problem. But I would argue to you that CNN does not need that in any way, in the way that they may have 20 or 10 years ago.
I agree. It wasn't from a need point of view. The idea was...
I'm not sure we would even be better off.
Well, but think about it the opposite way, which is what I'm sort of agreeing with you on. In other words, if in fact CNN acquired the news operation of CBS or ABC, right?
Okay.
And when they did a newscast and they did everything, it was ABC News powered by CNN. So the idea would be that there just seems to be a need for consolidation in the news gathering,
So,
and CNN could be an aggregator, not necessarily the sum.
So I think it would be fine, but it would be much more in the interest of ABC and CBS. And if they would like us, to produce their 30-minute newscasts, they should call and we can talk. Yes.
Hi, Jeff. I know there's been a lot about your investment in nonfiction programming. And in fact, you actually at one point said we're not just competing against news, we're competing against all nonfiction.
Right.
What has that done for you? Right. What is the level of your commitment to it going forward? What's the strategy?
Yeah. So just a little context on that for those who don't know. What Betty is referring to is that we now have a number of what we call original series at CNN, like Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, and John Walsh, The Hunt, and Lisa Ling, This Is Life, and Mike Rowe, Somebody's Got to Do It, and series like the 60s and 70s and 80s that take a historical look at those series. A series that's coming next year from Kevin Spacey called The Race for the White House, things like that. So the reason we did it was, I think when we got there 3 years ago, the old joke about CNN was that it was like the spare tire in your trunk. You only took it out when you needed it, right? So now we think we have done a lot to make sure that that tire's on the car all the time, but and made the programming better even those more fallow times of news. But we wanted to figure out a way to program the valleys in the news cycle. There's not that many valleys these days, but there are some. And so we wanted to move into, so our strategy was to program these series that were within the CNN brand, that they were, informational, that you learned something from them, and that weren't entertainment, but that were informational and could be entertaining. And I will say it has worked incredibly well. The most watched programs on CNN are now these original series, outside of the big breaking news days and the debates and things like that. These series have done incredibly well, and we're incredibly proud of them. They've won awards, they've won viewers. What they have done for us is they have made our audience younger. They have given us higher ratings. Back to the question about, do ratings matter? They have attracted a whole new set of advertisers. So this year alone, we had 60 new advertisers on CNN who didn't want to advertise in news programming per se, but were interested in original series. So it's opened up a whole new swath of people for our ad sales folks to talk to. So those are all the reasons why we did it and why we think it's been successful, and why, frankly, our traditional competitors are now going to try to emulate that strategy as well.
And more ahead?
Yeah, so when we got there were no series. This year and next year we'll have 12 series each year, which is a lot next year during the presidential year. So yes, it's a big part of what we're doing, and we're totally committed to that strategy.
Yeah, I think you took so much crap for that 3 years ago. Now it seems
Yeah.
that it's like, it's not just on TV, but just the divergence between what a slow news day is like and what a intense news day is like. Those things it feels like
Yeah.
have spread further apart.
Right.
And people move quicker to other media when there's not news.
Right.
Jeff, piggybacking on Betty's question with regard to nonfiction programming and the value of the franchise. In the news, going back to news, personalities in the news, how much do you think about the various personalities on the news? I mean, CNN reports the news, and you have a big bench of reporters, some very long-standing, but really the news comes first and the reporters seem to come second by and large, except for really, the top 5 or whatever. How much do you think about the personalities as having an impact on the news and what people watch in the news, and is it different in the U.S. and internationally?
Well, I think that they are, just to go to your second part first, I do think it is different domestically and internationally, though I would say that obviously on our international network, Christiane Amanpour is a signature personality, reporter, but she is a reporter first and foremost, but she obviously is an incredibly well-known personality. And then domestically, I think at CNN, it is principally the news and less the personality. But there's no doubt that, for instance, when you look at CNN last night and it's Anderson Cooper who is front and center, that does matter because it adds an imprimatur of credibility that does matter. So, and by the way, I think, to your point, there's 5 people at CNN who are like that, and I'm definitely not going to name them because that will only get me in trouble. but I mean, I think the way you set it up is right, and that's the way we think about it.
I just want to say that CNN was present in Lhasa, Tibet, where I just returned from, and reported well in the international reporting. Was I was grateful to have it because too much was going on.
Thank you.
when I
Well,
was
we
gone,
hear this
and
all the time.
It is important.
And look, I also think, back to your point earlier, one of the reasons that I wanted to go to CNN 3 years ago was I think CNN matters. And I think in this world where, there are so many sources of news and information, and you don't know necessarily who you can trust, and where the world seems like it's falling apart all the time, I think CNN matters, and it matters that CNN be good, and it's and around the world, And that's why, you know, getting caught up in whether we're first or second. Listen, I want to be first, and so I don't want to pretend that you know, that's not important. But it's most important that we know that people rely upon us, and we know that people are looking to us, not just in the United States, but around the world.
Yeah. The only two English-speaking were BBC and CNN, and it was really interesting to see the different reporting and the CCTV reporting.
Yeah, of course. Listen, there are only three. There are only three truly global television networks: CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera. But neither BBC nor Al Jazeera is strong in the United States. So that when you think about what's truly global, you have to be strong in the United States, and then it's CNN. So.
Just to the point of personalities, you have two networks, if I'm not wrong. What's the deal with HLN, and how does that going to fit into
Well, we have many networks, by the way.
Two news networks.
Well, two news in the United States. Right, exactly. So what your question is, what's with HLN?
Yeah.
Was that your question? Listen, HLN actually is doing incredibly well. HLN, here's a stat for you. This year, among viewers 25 to 54, okay, the two networks that had the most growth, audience growth this year versus last year, CNN is number one among all networks, news and entertainment, cable and broadcast. The fastest growing network in America this year among adults 25 to 54 is CNN. The number two is HLN. HLN is doing incredibly well, okay? But we're always trying to find its place in a world where headlines, which is the original headline news, you know, he can give you the headlines, Twitter can give you the headlines, anybody can give you the headlines. So that's not really a strategy. So we're trying to figure out, you know, the place for HLN. We don't think there's room for 4 cable news networks in the United States. There's just not room. I don't think there's room for 3, okay? So what do we do with HLN? You know, we have certain things that are working really well on HLN, which is why they've had a really good year, and we're going to continue to push those forward. You know, Robin Meade, Nancy Grace, Dr. Drew. And then what we're also going to do is now with HLN, we're going to better utilize the CNN library of original series that now is 3 years in the making that we didn't have 3 years ago. And so as we move into a presidential election year, and CNN is focused on that and can't utilize the library that has been built up over the last 3 years, HLN gives us a great platform to do it. And that's what we're doing with HLN.
Jeff, the online portals used to be a big place for news. I wonder what your opinion is about Yahoo. What do you think is going to happen to Yahoo, and more important, what should happen to Yahoo?
I'm proud that CNN has overtaken Yahoo News as the #1 destination online for news and information. And so clearly Yahoo's going to have to figure out what they want to be. And I think that the days of being the portal through which everybody came are probably behind us. And so I think that they're going to have to figure out their next move. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think right. Yeah, I think portals are. I mean, although it's funny, I think people, to the extent that people are using front pages for news, it does feel like CNN has become that. I mean, among other things, it's a good thing to.
Well, we know that. We can see that in the numbers, which is why we've overtaken them.
Yeah.
Do you think that cable news audiences will continue to sort of grow older, or will that kind of flatten out? And then, what are the opportunities to make that audience younger? Whether it's partnerships, is it partnering with brands like Vice, or what are some of the conversations you're having in terms of finding ways to develop content, long-form content that sort of brings younger viewers and beyond just breaking, but other types of content?
Well, I think if you don't do something, the audiences will continue to get older. But that's why we, for instance, have moved into the original series game, and that's part of what we do. Beyond that, I can tell you, everybody wants to partner with CNN. So that's what's interesting for us. Everybody, because they want that brand. They want that brand equity. And so we also know that when news breaks, like last night, for instance, I mean, I don't have the breakdown yet, but I can guarantee you our 18 to 34 numbers will be dominant. Now, I think it's in large part because that audience uses CNN in all its digital products, and when something happens, they come to us for TV. They don't watch it on a regular basis, so I'm not trying to pretend, but when news does break, they do come to us in dominant numbers. And so I think there's an opportunity to continue to exploit that, but that's why we're part of every platform that is emerging, right? That's why we're on Discover. That's why we're on Facebook, and we are the most followed network in social media by every measurement. Okay, people, younger audiences know CNN, and it's our job over the next 5 to 10 years to continue to cultivate them on whatever platform they're playing.
And is the view then that once the breaking period ends, whether it's 24 hours, 48 hours, that really young audience, 18 to 24, 18 to 34, they're naturally going to gravitate back towards digital, or is there an opportunity to
I don't think
further develop a slate so that they see the breaking? Okay,
I think that's a fool's errand, right? I think that if you go to just target them on television, you're going to lose. Okay, I think you got to do what you do. They will find you. They find us for those 24, 48, 72 hours, whatever it is. And then they'll utilize our products through all the other digital products, but not necessarily on television. And if you're just targeting them, I think you're going to lose.
I think that's all the time we got, but thank you all so much for coming. Thanks for submitting to this.
That was fun. Thank you.
That was fun.